Listen, laugh, and learn with Sacha and Ish as they share their experiences, thoughts, and tips to build skills that are not so average and a career that's not so ordinary. This is the Not So Breakfast Show.
All right, welcome to the Not So Breakfast Show today, the podcast for leadership and career development. And today we are in part 2 of our coaching series, talking about coaching. That's why we call it the coaching series, Sash. And we are exploring the concept of coaching, what it takes to coach, what it takes to be coachable. And also we're going to review a couple of models over the next few weeks as well, so that if you are in a coaching conversation, you've kind of got some frameworks you can fall back on or even do some more research in, because frameworks are handy because they keep you on track. And to keep me on track today, what can I say? It's Sacha Coburn coming in all the way from Christchurch.
Keeping you on track. It's fair to say I am absolutely not a good tracker. So sometimes people will come to me and say, yeah, I'd really like you to be my coach and you could keep me accountable. I'm like, oh no, I'm not an accountability coach. I can't even turn up myself to a meeting at the right time. So if what you want is accountability and tracking coaching, that's not me. I think you might be good at that. That's a different kind of coach altogether, right?
Yeah. You're just going to get in there and say, you want to know what's wrong with you? Here we go.
Take a pen. You'll need a bit of paper. It's a long list.
I actually started it even before you asked for coaching. So here we go. Well, last week we talked about kind of what is coaching, and we put it into the 4 buckets. One was around building clarity for someone. One was around switching on a level of awareness. One was around performance enhancement, and then another one around skills. So if you kind of think of most coaching conversations are falling into one of those 4 buckets. We did a line in the sand that we're not doing therapy here. We are trying to stay within the coaching side of things. However, every now and then, stuff from your past could come up in a conversation, and it's good to have some skill sets around navigating those. But remember, expertise, therapy, it has its place and it is so important. So if you've got some big issues or you come across some big issues, make sure that we direct people to the right source. We then talked about some skills. The ability to listen well, not just listen with our ears, but also listen with our eyes and what's sort of happening with them. Having good questioning and maybe a bank of questions that you can ask. The skill set of problem solving, action planning, and how to push and motivate people. And really, that was everything we crammed into episode 1. It was a really good overview. And if you haven't listened to that one yet, you can still listen to this one now. It'll be fine, but definitely go back and then listen to that one as well.
And also, if you have got a pen and paper that you're writing down notes about things that are wrong with you, one of the things that's wrong with you is if you haven't listened to that episode yet. So firstly, because you want to listen to them in order, and secondly, because the first thing you should do on the day that the Not So Breakfast Show drops is listen to the Not So Breakfast Show. If you're not getting the career success or life satisfaction that you're after, this is probably why.
Brilliant. I love it. These are the episodes for you. So why don't we kick off our conversation today around when would you consider using a coach? There's a couple of types of people, right? There's people that naturally gravitate into getting feedback and being open to suggestions and seeking out coaching. And then there's some people that are like maybe resistant to it, or they haven't really considered it because either they aren't being stretched within their role, or they just haven't even thought about what a coach can actually bring to a conversation or to your ability. So why don't we start the conversation there? When should you consider getting a coach, Sash?
This is a great question, and it's really hard for me to answer. So can I just tell you about my own experience? And then I'm not saying that my experience is typical of people, but I really like to go to the end of my own understanding first. So I'm the kind of person that goes, I'm facing this problem, so I'm going to research. So I'm going to Google, I'm going to read some books, I'm going to watch some YouTube clips, I'm going to listen to some podcasts, I'm going to talk to some friends, I'm going to ask some people I know, and I'm going to find out as much as I can. And for me, I'm often after clarity. Clarity and awareness is what I'm most after when I'm thinking about problems that confront me. And when I get to the end of that and I still am not any clearer, or I still don't have a sense of am I aware of these things or not, that's when for me I go, I need external help. So I'm the type of person that doesn't want to go and pay a coach to expose me to ideas that I could find if I'd Googled. Right? So that's just, but not everybody's like that. Some people go, actually, how they learn or how they stay open is by immediately having someone make that stuff accessible to them. Because if they do a Google search, it's going to be completely overwhelming. How do they know who to trust? So I think one of the first steps of knowing when you should ask for help yourself, when are you ready for coaching, is to recognize how you like to learn or get feedback and at what stage you're at in that journey. So two aspects to that. One is when you're looking for coaching yourself, say, how much do I like being a self-starter on new knowledge or problem solving myself? And am I best to do some research myself first, or am I the kind of person, get the coach first, and then the coach will point you in the right direction, and then you go away and do some stuff on your own? Yeah. There's no right answer. It's just recognize how you are best going to receive it. And then on the flip side of that, if you think that there's people who might be open to coaching, you need to find out where they are at in that same journey. Are they the kind of person that you just want to point some resources to them and then be available later? Or should you just get started straight away? Like, what works for you?
I am a little bit like you. I think when I get stuck, then I'll start to look with them, what can I solve myself and what access to information have I got? But because I've had really good experiences with coaching, I'll often then default to it like actually, I can do this way faster if I just got the right person.
That's a great point.
For example, if we use the Rubik's Cube thing, right? So even though that wasn't coaching, I could have sat there and maybe figured it out over the next 60 to 70 years. Or I could have found someone that could teach me that really, really quickly and then just get proficient at it. So sometimes if it's a skill or if it's just something that's like a competency, that's where you kind of go, coaching, it just makes sense. And if you've had great experiences, again, it's easy. Where I think it's harder to decide on getting a coach is when you're not aware that there's something going on. So if it's an awareness conversation, or maybe you need clarity and you think you're clear, but you're not really, because you can only know what you can know. If we do that exercise where you look around the room and you look at everything that's brown and you try and find all the brown in the room and you obsess on it, then you shut your eyes and they say, now tell me everything that's green. But you've been focusing on everything that's brown. All the green was there the whole time, but it's not until we then open our eyes and bring our attention to the green. But if coaching was the thing that turned on green for the first time for us, you would never have seen the green because you weren't aware not to look for brown. And that's probably a silly analogy, but I think that that's where, again, the positive experience you've had previously may lead you there. And then it's a matter of being open. And if you haven't had coaching, you think you're at a level now, you could only be at level 3. Imagine what it's like at level 10. Who knows? Level up, 10x.
Yeah, and interesting, as part of my study overseas at where, part of that program is to work with an executive or high-level, quote-unquote, high-level coach. And really interesting how many of the guys in particular just got nothing out of it. And they would go to the sessions and they were kind of humouring the people that were their coaches. And a couple of things came out of that for me. One was, if you are not open to learning a single thing or to being exposed to what's possible, you will automatically not get any value from it, because you have to go into the coaching with a willingness to learn and explore.
Yeah.
And second of all, some of those coaches really, in my mind, weren't at the right level to be of use to the people that they were coaching. So I think some of the criticism of the coaching was fair. So even if you're going to be open and vulnerable and willing to explore, if you're sitting opposite someone who you feel can't possibly understand your world, then it's really hard. But the very first coaching session that I had when I was over there was with a woman who, she was a medical doctor, and then she'd also trained in psychiatry, obviously, to be a medical doctor, and then she'd also gone and done some clinical stuff. She was a bit of a therapist. She worked with executives and leaders who are way more complex in terms of what they were dealing with than me. I told her a little bit about my situation and things that I was trying to get some clarity on. And she just spoke 3 or 4 phrases to me. And I just burst into tears, like embarrassing kind of weeping. I was just like weep like a puddle. So in an incredibly short space of time, it was like she had seen into my soul, was able to acknowledge that she'd heard something that perhaps I wasn't even aware of myself. She reflected that back to me, and then we started the process to say, okay, so what are the next steps for you? And that was easily one of the coolest experiences I've had in my life, where I just felt seen in a deep way for the first time in a long time. And so I'm always going to be open to coaching now. Unfortunately, it means I'm really reluctant in terms of getting a coach, because it's been such an incredible experience that you want to have that, that matched. So, but I'm working with a coach at the moment because I've got some, I'm going through these midlife crisis transitions, right? 50 now, kids have left home. What am I going to do? What is my life like? What do I want? First half of my life is over. And so I'm working with a coach to try and get some clarity about how I best serve my community, how I best get my own needs met, all of those things. And it's really useful.
Yeah, I love that. Again, you found the right person, right?
Yes.
So then you're open to it, but it's also bringing that openness to be looking in the first place. But I wonder, it's part of even that switching on the openness to coaching is recognizing all the times that we actually got coached and we didn't even know that it was happening, right? The piece of advice that just had to cut through, the conversation with someone that you kind of, hadn't thought about that. Those are coaching moments. They might not have obviously even thought that they were doing it, but there's coaching and development happening all the time. I think when we formalize it, suddenly that's where maybe we get more resistant to it, or we kind of go, oh, well, they need to have this level before I would even open myself up. But I just wonder how many times even someone might have walked away just going, you just got coach full, dollar bills next time. It's like, I just wonder how many of those moments have actually been there. Maybe if we think back, we just go, oh man, I learned a lot during that moment or with that person. If you could then take that attitude into your next experience, it may be completely different.
And I think recognize the arrogance when we go, oh, well, is this coach good enough for me? When often, wisdom comes from children. If you think about the parable of the emperor's new clothes, and it was the kid that goes, but he's naked. The teacher appears when the student is ready, is the kind of the ancient wisdom. But the teacher or the coach may appear in the most unlikely of places. I think one of the fundamentals of coaching is you want a coach that believes in you, often in a way that you don't believe in yourself, or sees potential in you and wants to help you untap or unlock that unrealized potential. You absolutely cannot have a coach who is trying to shape you into something you don't want to be, or who is trying to limit your aspirations. Coaching should be about how to get you to be the best you possibly can be. And I suppose I access coaching really easily through my tennis lessons. So having not been able to play tennis, it doesn't matter how much tennis I watch on TV, how many how-to videos, or how many books I read about tennis. What a tennis coach does is watches what I do and gives me feedback for something I cannot see or feel myself. And I think the mistake we make in our lives is we go, yes, but I know how to talk to people, so I don't need communications coaching. Look at me, I'm talking to people all the time. Versus saying, yes, but if you compare it to a forehand, that's a really weak forehand, and your backhand's not making it over the net. So the way you are communicating is the equivalent of a weak forehand and the equivalent of a useless backhand.
Yeah.
So actually you can get much better. And to your point, you're operating at level 3 now.
Yeah.
What would be possible with somebody who gave you some coaching and some insight?
Yeah. And I think this is where we're starting to turn now around being coachable, right? It's sometimes we resist against it because we go, oh, what if they identify, a fault or something I'm doing wrong? And so then we push back, or we make it a competition where it's like, well, you're not as smart as me, and you're saying this, and I'm going to say this, and it becomes like this battle of wits. But I guess I saw someone kind of explain knowledge at one point, and they did this big circle on a whiteboard, and they kind of go, let's imagine all this is like all the realm of human knowledge and everything that you can know. What do you think you know right now? And so you draw your tiny little circle, and then you kind of go, so would it be fair to say that the answer to what you need could be out here somewhere? It's not in that dot right now. And it's like, well, yeah, that could be fair. And it's like, well, should we explore that? What else is out there? And that can be different frames of thinking, or different conversations, or talking to different people. And that may even start where be the base level where coaching begins, and being coachable is just opening yourself up to different ideas and thinking, I wonder if that's right. Well, maybe I should learn more about that. Well, what am I basing my assumption and my opinion on? I think those are really helpful frames when we start to open ourselves up to developing ourselves further.
Well, I think to tie those two ideas together, the question is, when is a good time to seek out coaching?
Yeah.
One of the best answers is when you are ready for coaching, when you are coachable.
Yes.
And when you are coachable is often when you're facing new decisions, when you're in times of transition, when you're feeling stuck, when you're feeling dissatisfied, when you're not getting the results you want. That's the first level. And then the second level is actually, if you think about who gets the most coaching in our society, this is a really interesting paradox. Mm-hmm. The most elite athletes get the most coaching.
Yeah.
So if you are in an elite NBA team or a Super Rugby team, you have coaching almost every day. So if coaching was about being a bit shit and trying to get better, then amateurs would be getting the most coaching. Yeah. And people that can already run fast, ride their bikes really well, and know how to swim wouldn't be having coaching. And yet high-performance athletes are getting coached to within an inch of their life.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really useful parallel for our careers also, to say, okay, just because you are going well in your career, that doesn't mean you need less coaching. Arguably, you need more, because your performance gains are now going to be minuscule, and you quite possibly need outside expertise to help you unpack and unlock those. Yeah. Think about the most successful marriages, the best relationships, the best families. I mean, if you can quote unquote call a family best, it's not because they don't explore what makes them work, or they don't sit down and have family meetings to say, hey guys, we're getting a bit shitty with each other, let's come back into line. It's probably because they are having that level of conversation and communication.
Yeah. And even in that high performance, you look at the diversity of what the coaching is. So we look at a golfer, right? A lot of people might go, well, they have a coach for their swing, and they coach and they train and they get the technique right and they build the skill. But that ability to hold your nerve when the putt's worth millions of dollars and you've already just missed your last one, that resilience, that mental fortitude, that high-performance mindset, those coaches, they wouldn't even be on the awareness of your base-level golfers, right? Like the high-performance coaches that were just going in that can help you reset after your worst shot. That's the diversity. And you think about that from a business perspective. There are people that teach skills really well. There are people that can help you handle times of change, and there are people that can help you build strategy and work on your resilience. And they're slightly different diversity in coaching and skill set, but they make a complete package and training option.
I love that idea. Just coaches for different things. You're going into a big negotiation, work with a negotiation coach. You're doing a big presentation, get a presentation coach. Call Ishmael Cheyne. If you're somewhere else in the world, email him. Say, I want to jump on a Zoom with you and get some coaching because I've got a big gig coming up. That would be the smart thing to do.
All right, so let's talk about a model that is quite a common coaching model, and we'll cover a couple of others next week. But the first one we're going to cover today is the GROW model, and this is done by Sir John Whitmore in 1992. Flashback to 1992, good clothing, good shows on TV, and also good coaching model that came out of it. And GROW is an acronym. It stands for Goals, Reality, Options, and Will.
Yes, and before we start, don't you just love it when the model spells grow? So I always go, did he start with grow and go, okay, I need one that starts with G, one that starts with R, or did he come up with these ideas, or he did some research and he said, because he could have found that it starts with W, O, and then if I just rearrange them. Great, good on you, Sir John. I'm sure you were deserving of your knighthood.
Maybe that's why it says goals/aspirations.
Yeah, because otherwise it would be arrow.
Yeah. Oh, and that worked as well. We're really trying to identify what they want to achieve. So it's the base level conversation, which is what do you want to achieve from the conversation? Now, what problem are you trying to solve? Is there anything that we could work on that could help you improve this experience or your work experience? What are the benefits of achieving this goal? So it's all around kind of like, what do you want, and shaping up that part of the conversation from the beginning.
And what I love about this when you work with a coach is often you have in mind that there's this thing that you want, and what the coaching conversation explores is that really what you want?
Yeah.
And if you think back to the episodes that we did earlier this year, which I know you've listened to because you're not a total loser and you've listened in order, we talked about kicking off the year, having your best year yet, by unpacking, is the thing you think you want actually what you want? Yeah. Is it going to give you the underlying feeling or state that you are after? And so working with a coach, you can go, and so for me, for example, I can say I'm in this period of transition. I want to redefine what success means for me. I want to understand what that means in my family and in my job and my career and all of those things. I haven't gone in with a goal that says, I want to make X amount of money per year, or, I want to run a 4-minute mile, or which would be entirely possible. Let's just put that out there. Ooh, big goals.
So the G in GROW stands for goals. Again, what do you want and how specific can we get on that? The R stands for reality. Like, what's going on right now? Your current situation, internal, external obstacles. It's a little bit of an, exploration into your environment. What actions have you taken so far? What specifically is motivating you to do this goal? What could stop you from achieving it? Like, your actual reality is important, because it could be that you want some growth, but right now there is a lot going on in your life, and maybe right now isn't the time to try to be doing that thing. So by giving some objective questioning around this, it could just be, yes, I hear what you want, and I know why you want it, but the reality is right now you can't give this the time that you need. So let's have a talk about that. When could be the best time? So that's really what this R1 is about. And then the O in our GROW acronym here is options. What possibilities, what strengths do you already have? What resources are here? What does the ideal solution look like? Have you navigated or solved something similar to this before? So it's just kind of looking at all of the options, and think of it like a Swiss Army knife. You've got your Swiss Army knife, you can open it and it's always a knife. But if you always open it as a knife, that's all you ever get. But in a Swiss Army knife, there's a knife and there's a bottle opener and there's a thing for getting stones out of horses' hooves. Who wouldn't need one of those? And there's a magnifying glass and there's a toothpick and there's a whole lot of options that come with that one thing. So it's just exploring the whole robust environment of everything that you have to work with.
We'll be right back.
If there was one skill that could double your income, advance your career, and increase your ability to influence, it is the skill of presenting. Whether it's on stage, in the boardroom, or at a job interview, the 30-minute presenter program will help take you to the next level. So check out our Instagram page, click the link in the bio, and get started on the 30-minute presenter program.
I just had a genius idea. And I probably shouldn't tell everybody on the podcast, but as you're saying that, I'm thinking about the Swiss Army knife. Any minute now, you're going to say it's got something that I want, but none of those things were useful for me. And I'm like, we need a woman's one. I want a nail file, tweezers, mascara, tampon. What are the things that I could just whip out of my... Okay, are you listening, Coach? Because this is what I'm going to do next.
The woman-friendly Swiss Army knife.
Yes, things that you actually need. Talking about the options, what I've been exploring with my coach at the moment is I can list out a whole lot of options. Here's some things I could do and what would that be like. And what she helps me see is what I always do, and I don't know whether I've been socialized for this because I'm a woman and a mum, but I'm really good at saying, well, if I did course A, that would impact the family in this way, that would impact my husband in this way, this would impact my job in this way, this would impact my parents in this way. And she keeps saying, yeah, but how would it impact you? And I go, yeah, so how that would impact Portia is, and she's like, how would that impact you? Yeah. And I'm like, I can't think about how I'm impacted because I exist in a hierarchy, and the hierarchy has other people in front of it before me. Yeah. And she says, yeah, but just for a minute, imagine there's no one else there. How would it impact you? And so one of the gifts of this particular round of coaching I'm doing, I think of myself as being really quite, not selfish, but I think I've got a good sense of self and who I am, and I know what I want, and I'm go-getting. So much of what I do comes secondary to, is everybody else okay? So it's really useful when looking at these options. She helps me play out all of those things, but also she keeps coming me back. She keeps bringing me back to, yeah, okay, but what about you? Yeah. What would it mean for you? And I think that can be really useful. I don't think men need that kind of coaching in general. In general, men need the kind of coaching that goes, how will this affect everyone else in your life? But true, right? And not exclusively true. So, I mean, send your complaints to idon'tcare.com. We're talking in some broad strokes here. And to be clear, it's not my family or my husband or my work that have asked this of me. No one said to me, hey, how would it be if, you just go second in the thinking here? It's just something that we're socialized to do. What do you guys want for dinner? I'll just have whatever you guys are having. Versus, actually, what do I want for dinner? Well, I don't know. Yeah. Now, dinner's a metaphor here, people. Dinner's a metaphor for other stuff. So these are the options that a coach can help walk you through. Can I just say one thing, Ish? If it sounds, everybody, like I'm having a breakdown, I'm legit not. I'm just talking through the options, right? I don't want anybody to, send a help round to my house.
Or you could send some help round to help with the ironing, because you've obviously been doing that in the background there.
Yes, I have.
Sasha does her own ironing, people.
Not too fancy.
All right, so then our last one in our GROW acronym is the W, which is will. So this is your actions and accountability. What's your first step going to be as you take an action towards this goal? What routines can you put in place? What are you going to do? When are you going to do this? How committed are you on a scale of 1 to 10 for fulfilling this thing or putting the steps in place? Do you need any support? Who could help you? All of these things come around will. So actions, accountability, what's going to be that thing that drives you forward?
Can I just ask again, who's the guy that started this? Sir John
Whitmore.
Okay, I'm just Googling Sir John Whitmore because I want to know if he's still alive. Oh, no. So he died in 2017. So his Wikipedia page tells me he was a baronet, but he was a pioneer of the executive coaching industry. So that makes sense that he's come up with his acronym. He was an author. He was also a British racing car driver. Good for him. Because he died in 2017, I hope he doesn't mind that I've improved his model. And I'm going to share it with you now. Because as you were saying the W about the will, I get that. What are you willing to do? What are you commit to doing? I also like at this point, whenever I'm using this coaching model, to use the W for watch outs. What are the things that might trip you up? Anticipate. When you say these are my first steps, what are the watch outs? What might go wrong? What can you predict you might not do? So set yourself up for success by anticipating the derailers. What's going to get in the way? What's going to stop you? Because so often, all of us know what it is we need to do. We just either lack the discipline to follow through, or we don't prioritize properly. So by spending some time with the coach saying, this is what could go wrong and here's what I want to put in place to help me. So I love the will, and I like putting the watch out in there as well. You're welcome, Sir John. Sorry you can't hear me, but I think it's an improvement.
Yeah, and this is where a model like this is helpful, because you can sort of evolve it and you can build your own competency around all of these. So it might be that you're in a conversation, someone kind of needs some clarity or awareness, and you might just work through that model. So write down the G and work through that, and then the R, and then the O, and then the W, and then the other W. So you just work your way through those, and it can even be helpful taking your own thinking through those steps. And it's not that any of these models are better than the other, it's just that they are helpful, and especially they help you structure your thoughts and your conversations so that you're more on track than off track.
I like the idea of when you're facing a challenge or a problem yourself, walk yourself through the model, and then even just sit down with a friend or a colleague and say, this is the situation I'm in. I'm finding it hard to decide between these options. Here's the goal. Here's the reality. Here's the options. Here's what I'm thinking about doing next. Here's my watch outs. And you just actually brainstorm it together without it being like an exchange of money coaching. It's just to get an outside perspective. I think that can be really helpful. And in actual fact, we do this quite a lot. Every time you are going somewhere and you say, oh, shall I wear the white shirt or the blue shirt? Well, what's your goal? How do you want to look? What's the reality? I think instinctively why this model is so helpful is we have a tendency to go through a process like this without even being really conscious of it.
I always go, am I going to an Italian restaurant? Yes. Don't wear the white shirt.
Oh, we've got, we did that refurb and we got a new couch. We're very lucky to have a new couch. So over Christmas, of course, me and my mum and my sister, with my sister's nieces, we're like, nobody takes food to the couch. There's like this threshold. All the food is now at the table. Porsche's like wants to snack. Get off the couch. There's been this, at least can we have the couches clear for a month? We've been really uptight and anal about it. Not quite my big fat Greek wedding with plastic covers, but essentially no food on the couch. I've been away in Christchurch. I came back a week or so ago and I just moved one of the cushions on the couch. I was like, oh, there's a little bit of like fluorescence on the couch. Like it's literally glowing yellow, but it's obviously had a bit of work on it. So it took me a while to figure out what had happened. And Chris came home and I said, babe, about the curry that you had on the couch. Seems to be there's a little bit of turmeric that you've worked hard to get out. He goes, damn, busted. He said, I took a tea towel and everything. I was really careful. But as I reached for the TV remote, it went all over. He's like, man, I've got to move fast because I'm like, I'm going to get you. I'm going to find you out, sir. Every time I'm going to find you out.
Love it. Love it. All right. Well, that has been our conversation in part 2 of our coaching mini-series, and we've been exploring the GROW model and how to be coachable and where and when coaching is of benefit. So if you've never had coaching before, why not give your boss a shoulder tap and say, hey, any coaching you want to give me or any courses you can recommend, or what have you done in the past? Or have a conversation with someone that's had coaching in the past and where they've found it useful, and just be open to it. You never know. You could be at minus level 3 and no one's telling you. And you might be able to 10x it.
I actually thought you were going to say, hey, I want to get better at coaching. And so, hey, boss, I'd like to coach you. There's some feedback I need to give you. And that'd work too.
Yeah. And in the meantime, Sacha will get her patent in for her tampon distributing Swiss Army knife.
Swiss Army knife. Yeah. Tampons and chocolate.